Sir, hello.
Yes.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello.
Hello. Sir,
Hello.
we are live right now. Okay. We are live. We are live right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You can
So
start.
I guess I should continue then.
Yes, 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 sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay, guys. Where were we? I think I'm muted now. Fine. Okay. So, guys, in the simplest language, an embedded system is a combination of computer hardware and a software. So, uh, apart from the normal technology application development languages and technologies you see nowadays, Java development, Node.js, web development, full stack development. So this is a very, very specialized field which uses generally firmware programming or firmware engineering, which is also for embedded software. So embedded software and firmware both are very relative terms, so they can be used interchangeably. So a special piece of code written in C, which runs on the hardware, also called as low-level code, is called the embedded software. So that embedded software runs on the hardware. A combination is called as a combination of this hardware and software. It is called as uh, an embedded system totally. So the types of embedded systems include this bare metal, Linux based, and real time systems. These three are very, very different, guys. They work very differently. So bare metal, like I said, is something which does not involve any OS. So 8051 microcontroller and ARM based microcontrollers, they generally are bare metal. So bare metal in the sense you write a code and you flash it onto the board, and there is no OS involved. You cannot SSH, you cannot write Python, you cannot run Python. It doesn't work as a uh, what you call a computer like system. Linux based is as the name suggests, Linux running on a hardware. It is called embedded Linux also when Linux runs on a hardware. So the simplest example is your laptop only. Laptop has a motherboard which is your hardware, and Linux runs on top of it like Ubuntu, Kali Linux, Arch Linux. So uh, it is an embedded Linux system. So but it is a desktop system, it is not embedded. So I will give you a very good idea about what embedded Linux is, the use of embedded Linux and all. And real-time system is nothing but a real-time operating system, which are very, very time critical systems. Anything that needs time, they are generally used in time critical operations like military, ATC, flights and all. So there, a mismatch of a point second or a millisecond or a couple of seconds, no, it can cause it might cause a disaster. So it is a real-time system. So, like I said, some examples of bare metal embedded systems are microcontroller-based systems like Arduino, 8051, the older technologies. Then Linux-based system are Raspberry Pi, Android phone. Your Android phone is nothing but an embedded Linux device only. Then your Wi-Fi router is one of it. Then your Android TV or smart TV also runs some kind of Linux in it. So from Samsung TV, they generally run Tizen OS, which is again Linux based OS. And then if you have a LG TV, then it runs Web OS, which is again a modified version of Linux developed by LG. Then real-time systems, automotive systems like AutoSAR and all these are very time critical. I mean, the safety critical functions in an automotive vehicle, the cruise speed, cruise control, and your what you call airbags, then your brakes. They these are very time critical. A mismatch of 1 second here and there could cause a disaster. So these are time critical systems. So bare metal and Linux, basically the major difference is that जहां पर भी बात bare metal की आती है, it involves a microcontroller like Atmega STM8051. So if anyone says that I'm working on a microcontroller based system, it is a bare metal system. And Linux based system use microprocessor. So hear me very carefully, guys. Microcontroller and microprocessor, there is a big difference. So your Intel processor, your AMD processor, the Qualcomm processor in your phone, the MediaTek processor in your router, the NVIDIA graphics processor, these are all microprocessors, guys. And these microcontrollers, which you work on your hobby projects, are like Atmega 8051. These are microcontrollers, actually. So, like I said, microprocessor, Intel, AMD, ARM, Qualcomm, some of these are the common ones. So, the main agenda of this session is to focus on Linux-based embedded systems, because microcontroller and all is already been taught in our college. So, I guess you have a little bit idea about them. So, I'll give you a very brief overview, like what is this, what is the architecture, how is it works and all. So, compared to bare metal, this is very complex, guys. Let me tell you, but I'll try to simplify it as easy as possible. So here, if you can see my mouse, right? The cursor. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So see, guys, here you can see an embedded board. An embedded board is nothing but a board having a microprocessor. Okay. Then you have a bootloader. You have a Linux kernel and drivers. You have a root file system. You have libraries, and on top of it, you have applications. So this application is something, guys, where you run your PC games, your Python scripts, your Adobe Flash Reader, your photoshopping apps and all, the Chrome browser and all. These all things run in the application layer. Then this application layer, how they get services from the low level hardware and all is through the C libraries. So C libraries, there are different kind of C libraries. There is UClipC, there is MUSL. So and here Linux provides some more services and commands for that also. So then the C library make a call to Linux kernel and drivers and all. So don't get scared, guys. This is not that complicated, and it is not that easy also. So I will try to make it. We will come to all of these things in the next slides. I will try to explain you everything in the easiest language possible. So you have the Linux kernel and drivers. Just remember this block diagram for the time being. And then there is the bootloader, and then there is your embedded board. Forget about this part. This is just optional. This is your host PC. This is source code and cross compiler and all. So the main components for any embedded Linux system, guys, it is completely mandatory to have these components in your system. The for system, you can jot it down also somewhere. Bootloader is almost in any of the embedded system, guys, involving Linux. Your Android phone has a bootloader. Your Android TV has a bootloader. Your desktop PC has a bootloader. Then your Wi-Fi router has a bootloader. So this is one of the most important components for the embedded Linux. Second is the kernel. So Linux kernel, will come to it later. It is nothing but your host operating system. Kernel meaning it's the core operating system, like Windows 10 or Linux. So Mac OS is another one. So these are the kernels. File system, we will come to it. Then configuration file, C library, will come to all of these one by one. So guys, boot process for a typical embedded Linux system is like when you press the power button or you switch on your router or your TV or your phone. What happens when you power button? Let's say your phone just died, the battery went off, and you press the power button on your phone. After charging it for a while, you see the OnePlus logo, you see the Xiaomi logo, you see the LG logo and all. So guys, these are these blue boxes that you see. These things actually run behind that logo. All we see is a manufacturer logo on the phone, but these are the things that actually run beneath the phone. So every embedded Linux system or a microprocessor has a ROM bootloader. So ROM meaning it's a read-only memory. You cannot write to that memory. It's a small part of memory where the chip manufacturer has chip manufacturer has hard-coded one of the bootloaders. It gets powered on first inside the internal read-only memory of the SoC. Okay, then the ROM bootloader, it again finds SPL or MLO, secondary partition loader, and loads it into the SRAM, internal RAM. Then you have the main bootloader, U-boot. This is again used for initializing the RAM, the SPI, the I2C interfaces, the UART interfaces, and this again makes a call to the main operating system, which is the Linux kernel, which is executed into the RAM. I'm sorry. And that Linux kernel, it is responsible for loading all your drivers, getting all everything in a phone up, like camera controller, display controller, your power management integrated circuits, your RAM, everything. And then it finally finds a root file system. And after the root file system, finally you have a fully booted Linux machine where you can type commands and interact with it. So I know most of the things are not clear, as you guys are very, very new to this, but I will explain it in the coming slides, what all things are. So guys, first thing about embedded Linux is the processor architecture. So the popular processor architectures are, you all might have heard, like Intel, AMD. When we buy a laptop, we decide whether to buy Intel or whether to buy an AMD. So you buy any one of them, it doesn't matter. It uses an x86 architecture. So x86 is a set of proprietary architecture which these Intel and AMD uses. So it is nothing but a assembly language. The Indianness, how the data is stored into a word or a byte, how these processors call to the low level APIs and functions. So it is based on x86 architecture. So then you have the MIPS architecture. Sony PlayStation uses, Tesla Model S, they use MIPS architecture. Qualcomm Atheros Wi-Fi router chipsets, they use MIPS architecture. Then you have the most popular, abhi ARM ka to naam sabne suna hi hoga. So all your Android phones, TVs, they come with the ARM architecture. If you have recently brought an Android TV or a phone, it might be based on a Qualcomm chipset. And if you go to the website and check the specification, bhai isme kaun sa processor hai, isme kaun sa RAM hai, you might have heard the word ARM Cortex A53, ARM Cortex A72. This is the most popular architecture which is coming. The new MacBook that came a few months back, the Apple M1 Pro, it again uses the ARM architecture. So this is the most widely used architecture. So you can see Qualcomm, Snapdragon, Broadcom, Amlogic, MediaTek, Apple M1, Texas Instruments, TSMC, Micron, STM, NXP, NVIDIA. They all use ARM architecture. So this architecture, in the easiest word, is nothing but instruction set architecture, guys. The assembly code, the assembly functions which the processor supports. And these are the most four of the most important. These are the most important ones, and these are most popularly used. The other less popular are these which are not in use. So I won't talk about these, but I still mentioned them. Okay, the first building block of embedded Linux is the toolchain, guys. So a toolchain is a set of tools that compiles source code into executable that can run on your target device. So in the very, very, very easiest language, I will give you an idea. So this is my PC. This is my normal Linux terminal, and I know I'm running on an Intel processor. So you all had that subject in your first year, right? What was it? ITCP. Can anyone confirm? They still teach that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I guess they gave you a Red Hat machine in which you are using VI editor, you write a code, and then using GCC, you compile it, right?
We haven't seen, but we have only seen only here in practical we perform.
Sir,
Okay.
actually, these guys, yes, due to the virtual nature of their classes, they might have not, but it was there at our time. We used
Okay.
Linux machines.
Okay, no problem. So to compile any code, guys, you need a GCC, you need a compiler. If you're writing code in C, you need a GCC compiler. If you're writing code in C++, you need a G++ compiler. So let's say I write a simple hello world program on my computer, and I compile it using GCC. It gets compiled with a .a.out output. But since I compiled it on an Intel machine or AMD machine, it will run only on Intel and AMD. But it won't, if you try to run the same on your phone or same on your smart TV, it won't run. Why? Because the architectures are different. This my PC or my laptop is having an x86 architecture set, but your phone is having an ARM architecture. So there are architecture differences, guys. It won't work. So there comes there you need some kind of compiler in which I can build here, I can compile here on this machine, but it will run on a different architecture like ARM. So now, what is the difference? This GCC that we are seeing here, it is used for only compiling your x86 for your x86 architecture, and this which you are seeing, it is special compiler, ARM Linux GNU EABI HF GCC. So this compiler, when you compile the same code with this kernel, this tool chain, it will create a binary which won't run on my Intel machine because it has been cross compiled for the ARM, but it will run on your phone or your TV, which is based on ARM. So there comes the idea of toolchain. So these guys, they created a separate toolchain in which toolchain is nothing but a cross compiler, guys. These are open source and these are completely available or free of cost. You can download, install in your machine, and do some cross compiling. So you need one to build one of the three elements of embedded Linux system. So guys, let's say you're building a Linux system based embedded Linux system based on a particular architecture. Okay, you jot down some points: how much RAM I need, how much memory I need, what should be the clock processor of the clock frequency of the processor, and you finally select all the components. Now it's time that you make a list of like what bootloader will I be using, what kernel will I be using, what root file system will I be using. So that time, guys, toolchain comes into picture. Toolchain is the first building block of embedded Linux system. So it has to be able to compile code written in assembly, C, C++, since these are the language used in base open source packages. So if you are building an embedded system based on Linux, which is based on ARM processor, or you're building your own, you're making your Android phone or Android TV, then you need to get a toolchain from ARM. You can get it from your from the ARM website or Linaro website, and then use that to cross compile things. So cross compile is nothing but I compile on my Intel machine, but I develop or generate the code or binary which can run on the target machine, which could be ARM or MIPS or x86 architecture. So two types of toolchains are the native and cross-compiled toolchains. The native, like I showed you in this terminal, this is the native toolchain, the GCC for Intel. And the cross-compiled toolchain is this your ARM. Similarly, if I want to build for MIPS architecture, then I will need to get a MIPS toolchain, MIPS cross-compiler. If I want to develop for this RISC-V architecture, then I need to get this toolchain for the RISC-V architecture. Okay, RISC-V से याद आया कि RISC-V is very interesting, guys. I will share some things with this RISC-V architecture. It is a completely open source hardware, so you can literally design and develop and manufacture your own chip. Like if I want to develop my own chip tomorrow, I can name it a Pratik microprocessor or something else. So it is very interesting. It is very trending in the semiconductor market right now. So we will come to that later. Okay, cross compilers is nothing the same I was talking about, like build binary on the Intel machine, but generate but make it runnable on the ARM architecture or some other architecture. That is cross compiling. Okay, bootloader, guys. I will simplify it down. Bootloader is nothing but a piece of software which loads your initial uh, uh, boot software on your board. So when the power is first supplied to a processor board, many elements of hardware must be initialized before even the simplest program can run. Okay, you all have laptops, right? So in that, uh, have you seen that BIOS screen, that the blue color screen that comes when you just press the power button on your laptop to turn it, or there is an option like press delete or hit F12 key to enter the BIOS settings. Can anyone confirm? Has anyone seen that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir.
That is a bootloader, guys. That is BIOS, basic input output system. So what if your Windows gets corrupt? What if your Ubuntu gets corrupt tomorrow? How will you recover it? That is the use of BIOS, guys. So it is the one which, if anything happens tomorrow, uh, your data and all is at risk. All of your data in the disks and all. So if tomorrow the C drives gets corrupted, or the Ubuntu partition gets corrupted, you can go to the BIOS settings, plug in a new bootable drive, and make a clean install of Windows 10 again. So it plays a very important role, guys. Okay, in the Android terms, bootloader is again the same thing. Uh, when you brick your device, or when after a failed OTA update, you are not able to get the Android running. So what you do, you download a ROM. Uh, you download a ROM and try to flash it, but for that you have to put it into the fast boot mode. So that fast boot mode is nothing but bootloader, guys. It is a bootloader recovery mechanisms. So in embedded Linux, there are two bootloaders. UEFI is for Intel ARM and your motherboard, laptop motherboards and all. We won't discuss about this. And the second is very, very popular, guys. This is U-Boot. It is completely open source and very, very important. Almost in every device, U-Boot runs. In your Wi-Fi routers, in your Android TVs, in your phones, in your refrigerators, the first thing that gets powered on is your U-Boot. So it generally it is again used for the recovery purpose. It provides a small command line interface where you can recover the OS and load the OS again. So uh, it doesn't have a graphical user interface like BIOS in laptops, but it is one of the most popular ones. So we'll come back to that. Okay, I post some links here. If you go to the GitHub of the U-Boot, here you can see this is the main repository, and you see millions of developers, embedded developers. They make their changes every day to get the latest commits and all. See, the last change was made 2 days ago by this guy. So he has removed this line and he has added this line. So it is completely open source. You can get it. I will tell you how to build and how to run it on your machine and all, and how to run it on your embedded device and all. It's too bad, guys. We are having this remote session. Otherwise, I was planning to come to the college and give you the presentation in a live mode, where I could show you some of the small hardwares running Android or Linux in front of you. Too bad this is not possible in this remote kind of session. But yeah, we still have emulators, so I will show you some demos at the end of the session. And the most important is the main use of this bootloader is to breathe life into the processor and related hardware components. So once your phone and all is powered on, the first thing that needs to power on is power management integrated circuit and your Snapdragon processor, and also U-Boot plays a big role in initializing that. Then again, this that the BIOS that you find in laptops and all, it's called UEFI, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. It is used by Intel, AMD motherboards. So it is again open source, guys. You can literally build or develop your own BIOS for your system. So here is all the code. You can get it and build it. It's interesting. It's all open source. Okay. Linux kernel, if you run Ubuntu on your machine, or if you run some other form of Linux on your machine, if you have used some Raspberry Pi, you have to get that Raspbian image, you have to flash it onto the SD card, and then you have to power on the board to get the Raspbian running. So that is Linux kernel, guys. It is the core operating system. So it is completely open source. It was built by it was actually invented by this Linus Torvalds, who is the maker of Linux. He does not develop code now; he just maintains things and all. So uh, it is the main Linux operating system and the core interface between computer hardware and its processors. It communicates between two, managing resources as efficiently as possible. So it is the operating system, guys. Basically, like Windows 10 is there, no? It is similar to this. Windows 10 is proprietary from Microsoft, but this is completely open source. So anyone can get the source code, anyone can modify, anyone can cross compile it, build it, and run it on your small embedded device like Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone Black. So this is the main core operating system. So again, Linus Torvalds, he maintains his own repository. I have mentioned the link. You can go and you can see all the changes. 12 hours ago, last change was done, then 6 days ago. So continuously, thousands, millions of developers all over the world, they keep changing the code here, and whatever thing needs to be changed, they do everything here itself. Yeah. Next part is, I think, drivers. Guys, this is very important. Linux device drivers plays a major role in embedded Linux system. So drivers is nothing. Device driver is nothing, guys. When you plug a pen drive inside your laptop, your operating system, your Windows 10 or Linux, it loads a driver, and then it mounts the file system so that you can see the contents inside the pen drive. So for everything, a driver is needed, guys. Let's say you get a new laptop, you see, if you do a little bit of gaming, you have the GPU, Nvidia or AMD GPU, which in which daily driver update is happening. So that GeForce experience software and all, they automatically download all the drivers and then they install the latest one. So to run any hardware, you need drivers, guys. Without drivers, it cannot be made. When you plug even a simple mouse in your laptop, you need a driver to run that. So that is the use of driver. A driver which drives a device is called a Linux device driver. A piece of code, a driver is nothing but a piece of code which drives a device, like your camera in your phone, then your display, your touchscreen driver. Uh, and the good part about Linux and all is that it is completely open source, guys. You can literally, there are thousands and millions of drivers free of cost, all written in C programming. So I will show you some of them. In this Linux repository, you can see a folder for drivers. Now you can see here, if you're able to see my screen, you have drivers for Bluetooth, you have drivers for CD-ROM, you have drivers for clock source, you have drivers for CPU frequency, you have FPGA drivers, you have firmware drivers, you have GPU drivers. There are so many drivers, guys. You can go to any one of them. So I will show you one basic example. Okay, let's take a look at the USB, the most popular one of them here.
Sir, someone asked in the chat box that is it currently helpful for first year student?
Okay, let me see. First year student, see, if you have a passion for processors, embedded systems and all, and you want to learn this, or if you have planned that you want to make career in all these things, then you're free to attend this. It is no problem. But you should know a little bit prerequisite about Linux and all before coming to this session. I mean, it's okay if you're not okay with C programming and all. Even I am not an expert till now, so it's completely fine. But Ubuntu and all, and processor architectures and all is important, and for you, then you can attend, no problem. Okay, so I was going through this USB driver. Let me search. Okay, let's go to GPU, graphics processing unit. Everyone knows NVIDIA and ARM and all, right? So okay, you see an AMD folder. Everyone knows AMD, right? So let's go inside it. So AMD GPU driver. As you can see, guys, I won't go into much technical details, but you can see here, right? There are source files in C and H. So H is nothing but the header file which you include, like hash include Linux, stdio.h in your C code and all. And this is your main C files. If you go to any one of them, you can see there are a million lines of code, C code written here. It is some driver, some AMD GPU driver you can see. So what I mean is all of these drivers are completely open source in Linux. So you can tomorrow, if there is a new technology or new display controller or a new type of USB interface, high-speed USB interface, you can write your own driver and submit a patch to this if you are good enough with C and all. So these I wanted to tell, like these are all open source, guys. Open source, people don't understand, say what is open source. Open source is OSS, open source software is something which is completely free. I mean, without spending a single penny, you can get all this software free of cost. So there are so many drivers, guys. I can keep going through them. From every company, they have their own drivers. So it is nothing but this program introduces such that drivers will build progressing plug as a runtime when needed. So it is completely open source. I can show you in my terminal to see all the drivers that my system is using. There is a command called lsmod. Don't worry about these commands, guys. With experience, you learn more and more about this command. So don't get afraid of these. This is normal. So see here, you can see NVIDIA DRM and NVIDIA UVM graphics drivers loaded into my Ubuntu machine. Then there might be something for WLAN also. Yeah, here you can see. ETH9K is my Wi-Fi driver, guys. These are all open source, guys. I can play with it. I can fix them. I can do anything I want. It is a world of open source, so you can do anything with them. Okay, the third very important thing is the root file system, guys. Root file system is nothing. I'll show you. In Linux, whenever you say root means this front forward symbol. So if you do ls-l onto the root, you can see this is your root file system. Very, very important, guys. This is the user space. So here you can see there is your root main file system. Then you have etc directory, you have usr, you have var, you have home, you have user. So everything plays a different role here. I'll get to that. Okay, so bin is nothing but it contains your x86 binaries. You do gcc, you use all those commands, no? mv, cp, mkdir. So this bin folder contains all the binaries. I will show you. This is my root file system. So if you go to bin, see here is the executable of mkdir. You can create your own if you want also. So this is one of the thing. And boot, this is the very important directory. We saw the bootloader previous slide. So this is the main directory. If you delete anything of them, you can see there are red crosses mark here, so you cannot delete them. If you delete, no, you will lose your operating system. So better not touch this directory unless you are really knowing what you are doing. So UEFI, like we saw, EFI, grub. So it contains your Linux image, your bootloader image, and your root file system image. So this is very important for system booting. CD-ROM is nothing. My laptop is a very old one. It has a CD-ROM, so it generally loads the driver for CD-ROM to see the CD-ROM content. If you enter a CD, DVD, so to use that, you use this. Then dev. Dev is very important, guys. Dev contains all the device drivers, the device files created by all the device drivers. I will show you the contents. Okay, you see these are the NVIDIA based device files. So these are created by the NVIDIA driver, which we install in the Linux machine. So these are generally for your display driver, your touchscreen driver, your graphics driver for gaming, and also device. This device file is generally the directory is generally used only for this device file creation by device drivers. etc is nothing. Configuration, everything more you want to do is through etc only. Then home. Home is where where this is your space, guys. You can do anything. You can save any amount of user space files. You can load user space application. You can load games. This is completely made for people like users like us. So that's why the name home. So multiple users shall be made. And following the other one. So I won't go into much deep regarding the other ones because these are all system directory. This is the root directory. This is the root's own. See, it's asking for permission, so you cannot access it unless you are a root. So these are very critical directories that root files. This root file. These are part of the root file system. So these things that I demonstrated, your drivers, kernel, bootloaders, guys. This is very, 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 very vast. I cannot cover this in just 2 hours or 30. It literally takes years, guys, to understand these things. And there are literally thousands of books, PDF documents written for all of these. So even I hold the experience of around 4 years in the industry. Still, I don't have a complete expertise in these things, but a bit of these, how these things work and all. So it takes years and years of expertise, and then of course an opportunity from the company. Okay, these are the build systems. Now what we were seeing here, root file system, Linux device driver, Linux kernel, I already have the source code. I downloaded yesterday using git clone and all. As you can see, you see a directory name uboot here. You see a directory name kernel here. See the directory name busybox here. This busybox is nothing but a root file system. This kernel is nothing but your Linux source code, and his bootloader is your bootloader source code. So there are two things. Either I can tweak all of them, build all of them individually to have a better control on the system, or I can use some automated build system. So that automated build system is called Buildroot or Yocto. So आजकल automation का ज़माना है, so everything is automated, guys. So you, instead of building each and every component of the system together, you just get a system, automated system like Buildroot, and you tell like इसके लिए build करना है. Do you want to build it for Intel? You want to build the code for ARM? You want to build the code for some other architecture? So just you tell them what to do, and it will do the rest of the things. So again, if I go into this Yocto project and all, Literally, guys, a book has been written on this. There are so many books written on this. I mean, it takes almost 3 to 4 to 5 years to learn all these things. So huh. So see the members that are supporting this project. Yocto is something used by today for developing embedded Linux systems. It is very awesome, guys. It is completely built on Python and it is completely automated. Just tell him that I want to build an customized Linux system for my Raspberry Pi board. Just give it that I want to build it for Raspberry Pi. It will do all the things, right from downloading to extracting to compiling to developing binaries. And finally, all you have to do is those generated binary files, you have to put it in a micro SD card and then just boot the board. So you can see the companies that are supporting this project. There's Intel, Cisco, ARM, Facebook, Xilinx, AWS, then this Microsoft. So many companies, guys. NXP, AMD, LG, every company is supporting this project. So it is completely open source. You can get it. I won't go into much deep, guys, because it takes a little bit of thorough understanding. And the very common one, like the name suggests, real-time operating systems. Like I told, guys, the systems which are very time critical, which are particularly tailored to run in some given time, these are the real-time operating systems. So um, there is some of the popular RTOS. You all know BlackBerry, right? It's a dead company now. Nobody buys BlackBerry phones, so they acquired QNX. So QNX is used by your vehicle, your automotive vehicle, the high-end cars like Mercedes, BMW. They use QNX. Then there is Integrity by Green Hills, and this is free RTOS. This is the only open source RTOS you can get free of cost. You can download it, run on your Arduino. You can run it on your ARM STM board. You can do anything with it. So if you go to their websites, I've mentioned some links, you can get an idea. I won't go into much detail like what they do, what they built. So if you go to automotive software, you can get an idea where these are used. Medical devices, rail transport. So time critical systems are generally RTOS. So I don't work on RTOS basically, but I have an idea. So these are again non-Linux based. These work very differently, and they don't use microprocessor. They use microcontroller, guys. Okay. I will tell you how to cross compile all these components. Okay. So I have already got this code and all. So you can literally go to uboot source code. You can get this link and git clone it if you know a little bit about git cloning and also I have already cloned that. And after cloning, you get this code. So it is nothing but जो आपको code यहाँ पे दिख रहा है, ये सब directories, I am getting that on my local machine instead of GitHub. Now I want to build it. Let's say I'm developing an ARM-based embedded Linux system. How do I build it? So don't worry about this make menu config and commands. This if you want, I can explain it to you later. But for the time being, just watch what I'm doing. So it gives you this configuration screen here. So literally you can. I told you if you want to build, it gives you the first option is to architecture selection. Like I told you, like see x86 we saw. If you want to build for Intel AMD, then you choose x86. RISC-V is one. Then ARM is there. Then MIPS is there. So let's say I'm building it for Raspberry Pi, which is based on ARM. So there are particular commands to do that. Let me check any questions here. Okay. Aniket, can you please elaborate? I didn't understand the question. Is he there? Okay. Huh. Don't worry about this command, guys. So what this command is trying to do is we are telling that architecture is ARM and use this cross-compile toolchain and using 8 threads to build it. So it builds the code by itself. You don't have to do anything, or you don't have to write any code to get this built. Then how to run it? Okay, one thing I forgot, the result of this build process is you get a uboot.binary. Here you can see. This is the main executable. You see when you develop code for 8051, you see a hex file and on. So this is the binary file which you actually run on your system. Okay, there you go. So I don't have a hardware, so I'm running it on an emulator. So emulator used for embedded Linux is QEMU, QEMU. So I'm telling it to run with 512 megabytes of memory for this VExpress A9 board and use this uboot.binary in a non-graphical mode. So it runs it. So this is the boot screen of bootloader. So this is very similar to your BIOS screen, which you see in your laptop and all. If you type help, you will see different commands for it. So this is just the bootloader. Similarly, the kernel is built with the same command. In the kernel directory, you build the kernel and you find the executable in Arch ARM boot directory, which is the Z image. This is the main kernel or the OS image. I'll show you at the end of how to run all of these things together. And then there is your root file system or BusyBox. I'll give a very small demo. I've already built it yesterday so that we don't spend time in building, because building all these things require a very high configuration machine. You need at least 16 GB RAM, a good i9 or a AMD processor to build all of things. So I've already written some shell script to automate these things. When you build, you can see this QEMU. QEMU is nothing but an emulator. It is faking that a Linux system is running on your computer. So the one that you see right now in my screen, this is my actual Ubuntu machine, Ubuntu OS running on my computer. On top of that, there is one emulator in which again another Linux system is running. So if you can see here, it starts from here, and you can see my name here. That's because it has been built on my machine yesterday using this toolchain. And there you go, guys. You just have a small, very minimalistic embedded Linux system. You can see it's based on ARM. You can play with it. You can do anything. You can run C program. You can see all these things. These are the things I basically work in my current company, the drivers and all, selecting the correct drivers, getting them to work. So you can see PCI drivers loaded here. You can see SCSI, the storage drivers loaded here. You can see the file system drivers loaded here. You can see SD card drivers loaded here. So I won't go into much depth. I will come to these later, but this is out of the understanding of today's session at least. So guys, these four things that I told you in the presentation, the tool chain, the Linux kernel, the Linux device drivers, the root file system, these are very, very important. These are the four building blocks. To conclude this session, like these are absolutely needed. You power on your TV, you power on your fridge, you power on your Android phone. सब इसी से चलता है, guys. This is the main thing. And the purpose of this lecture is, guys, this is completely open source. It is completely free. All you have to do is go to the GitHub source code repository, get the source code and build it and put it in your device. That's how these big companies, product-based companies like Samsung, LG, they make profit out of this. This is completely open source software, guys. All they have to do is spend money on hardware. और सॉफ्टवेयर तो फ्री का मिल रहा है उनको. So that's how they make lots of profits. So it is up to you also. You can get this. If you want to really get into more details of these and learn these from scratch, we can have a different session for this. But to this session for introductory for this. Okay, very important. The skills required for the career in the same field. Okay, let me tell you. How many people are there? This is very important. So listen to me very carefully. I was a 2016 YCC pass out. Like most of you people, I was just a very average student. Hardly any professor or lecturer used to know me. So I was a very, very under the cover kind of guy. So just a 6.89 CGPA holder, average guy like you. But I had a very interesting passion for Linux and embedded systems. So when I was in second year, third year, I used to use Linux as my primary operating system, do everything on it, maybe play games, fiddle with it. I was very much passionate for it. So it was like, यार मेरे को Linux and embedded systems इसी domain में जाना है मुझे. I don't want to work for some IT company like TCS, Accenture, where they put you in any domain, in support, in testing, in development according to their usage. And then after 2 to 3 years, you are frustrated. यार मेरा salary नहीं बढ़ रहा है, मुझे काम में मजा नहीं आ रहा है, मैं switch नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ. So these kind of things were there. So there are a couple of I chose not to sit for the placement in the final year, but I'm not discouraging you. You should sit if you really don't want to make these things, make a career in this thing. You don't. If you have a proper roadmap for your career, no, you follow that only, guys. I'm telling you only from my perspective because I was very much passionate about Linux, embedded, Ubuntu, and also open source. So I used to. And that time उतना internet इतना evolve नहीं हुआ था, so everything was very much hard to find. Internet cheap नहीं था, internet was not evolved, laptops नहीं थे, smartphones नहीं थे हमारे time पे. तो somehow then I came, I didn't sit for the placement, and then I thought like, should I do MTech or should I do MS? So unfortunately, I wanted to study in US or Europe and do a specialization in embedded systems, nanotechnology, and all. But the financial constraints, I never got a chance. So I said, "Chalo, let's give an MTech or GATE dete hai." So I gave that, and I scored very very bad in GATE. So I was not eligible in any of the colleges. Finally, I heard this thing called CDAC. I had some very good seniors who did CDAC and were working in very big companies, guys. And I thought to myself, यार ये लोग कैसे चले गए इतने बड़े companies में? Like they were working in Microchip, they were working in Samsung, they were working in AMD, Nvidia. So I got this that there is one very good training institute in India and all, which is called CDAC. आपका कोई ना कोई सीनियर या कोई भाई बहन कोई ना कोई होगा ही जो जिसने कभी ना कभी CDAC किया ही होगा. It is one training institute, guys, which trains you on all these things that I showed you. So once you join this, they train you very well. So I asked myself कि यार कैसे CDAC में admission कैसे मिलता है, fees कैसे होता है. So they told me that you have to give an entrance and all. So after passing out in 2016, I straight away started preparing for CDAC entrance. It's called CCAT. So they ask you very core. There are multiple choice questions similar to GATE only, but more on the software side. So I somehow cracked it. I got the main CDAC headquarter in Pune, where they have the India's first supercomputer kept. So in that 7 to 8 floor building, there are almost scientists and computer science scientists and all working there in the same field. And the 2 floors down below, they have a R&D research and development lab and one for having lectures. So I cracked that. I was part of those 150 people who got admission in embedded systems. And fees itna nahi tha, almost 70 to 80,000 tha for a period of 6 months. But just to train you very, very vigorously, guys. I mean, you go to the institute 8 a.m. in the morning and you come back at 10 p.m. in the night. So they used to train you very vigorously there. So just आओ पढ़ाई करो और घर जाओ. And after 6 months, they used to bring all these big companies, which like not all colleges can afford. So big companies like at my time, Nokia came, Western Digital, SanDisk, Veritas, Quick Heal, Nvidia, Siemens, or Emerson. All these kind of very big 30 to 40 big companies came. So I thought, यार चलो इसमें से कोई कंपनी मिल जाए तो सही हो जाएगा. But unfortunately, I didn't get any one of them. So 150 people out of 150 people, almost 135 people got placed, and I was one of those 15 people who didn't get any chance to get placed. So I tried. I was a fresher. I was struggling guy like you back then, and nobody to like help. Like क्योंकि कोई fresher को लेता ही नहीं यार company में. Is this type of companies, they don't generally hire freshers. They need skilled professionals who know you have at least 2 to 3 years of experience. Then I started applying outside. I made my resume and started applying. I gave almost 50 to 60 interviews in Pune itself in the year 2017 to 2018. Every company, guys, every company, and every one of them rejected me. Not a single company gave me a chance, but I still kept on trying. Then I started my career back in this very small startup. It was in Baner, Pune. It was one startup, very interesting one, and they used to work on Wi-Fi technology and routers. So I got a chance. So I started with a very very less package, guys. I mean 3.5 to एक normal package होता है fresher person का from TCS Accenture. I started with almost half of it. So it was a very very bad situation at that time. So then I got a chance there. I worked very hard. I used to work there very hard. I used to research. I used to do R&D, lot of things. My manager used to give me very challenging tasks, but I was the one who used to do all of those individually. पूरा study करना, R&D study करना, then finding a solution for a problem. So I didn't get bored. I worked there for almost 2 years because I was passionate, guys. I know I was facing challenges, but I was still very curious to know things. कि यार ये इसको fix करना है, इन्हें करना है. So you need that problem solving skills. So I worked there for 2 years. Then I got chance with Sasken after 2 years, and then currently I'm working with Nokia. So almost in 3 years, in my career of 4 years, I am currently now employed with Nokia on a very very interesting and project. Nokia, as you know, it is dead, guys. It does not make Android phones, and उनके Android phones वगैरह इतने बिक नहीं जाते आजकल. So they are into completely different thing now. So they are the market leader in technology and all. So even Jio, AT&T, Verizon, these Nokia is a client to them. So Nokia is still very very strong in networking domain. So uh, so guys, my suggestion to you is to keep trying. If you need any more career help, if you want to seriously make in this field, in this career, you can talk to me anytime. I will give you some tips. So I will give you one by one. So to have skills in this particular field, you generally need passion, curiosity, and love for Linux. If you love Linux and all open source things, if you're passionate about it, you have a curiosity of it, then this is the field for you. Second, I will come to the second point in the end. It is very interesting. Okay, programming skills they ask for any one of these C, C++, Java, Python. Don't worry, guys. कि C आना ही चाहिए, C++ आना ही चाहिए. Any language you are comfortable with. I think Python is the most easiest one. So you just get that, learn it. इतना सारा YouTube वीडियो है, ट्यूटोरियल्स है, you learn any of it, you study all the basic concepts. कोई भी एक प्रोग्रामिंग स्किल अगर आता है, so I think you can crack the interview in any one of the language. So don't worry. But for this particular embedded Linux driver development and all, you need C. C बहुत खतरनाक चाहिए, guys. They ask a lot, and especially data structures and all. Then fluency in English, yeah. 20 any interview, out of 100%, 25% is your programming skill ability. Another 25% is your verbal and written communication. How do you speak English? How to fluently speak English, both verbal and written. Your English should be extremely good, guys. Communication skill and all, confidence and all, it matters a lot. That constitutes another 50%. Third is your previous company background. How long have you worked with the previous company? वहाँ क्या projects किए, कैसे किए, how did you solve the problems and all. So that is another 25%. And 75% is just your salary expectation. कि यार, how much CTC is he expecting? So that's how they evaluate you. So don't worry if you are really bad at technical, but good communication in English, they might give you a chance, because once you join the company, they train you anyway in shell scripting, in C and all. So don't worry. Fifth is passion for embedded processor and operating system. I had this from my engineering days, so that's why I'm where I'm working today. This is the thing that brought me here. So this is absolutely important. And if you want to do training from the CDAC and all, no guys, you can contact me. I will give you all the details, how to crack the entrance, what is the schedule there, how to prepare for interviews, because I didn't get placement there, guys, when I wanted. But what mistakes I did, I was not framing my resume correctly. If you want the very catchy and the most impressive resume, how to build that, you can ask me, the most professional one. Even I can share you my resume with you, so that you can have a look, like how to highlight things, how to build a resume. And to stand away from the crowd, guys, now that you are in engineering, whatever field that you're passionate in, let it be web development, or let it be Java development, or let it be Python development, AI, machine learning, anything it is, just guys, make a small project. Anything you can choose, computer vision and all, anything. And उसका एक link, उसको GitHub पे डाल दो, कोड के साथ सब कुछ डाल दो, and just share that link. Share that link in your resume. So it will help you stay away from the crowd. And guys, see, coding and all is fine. What companies look out for in these technical interviews, if you see Accenture, TCS, they generally take two or three rounds max and give you an offer. But there is no clue that they might put you into a good technology and also. And in this core companies like Nokia, Intel, AMD, and Microsoft and all, they really have literally, guys, minimum 4 rounds are there only. There is technical, there's telephonic round, then there is coding round, then there is technical round, then there is HR managerial round, then there are 6 rounds you have to clear. So if you want more information on how to crack those, after all these failures I had in the previous interviews I gave, so I can literally tell you how to get shortlisted in any company, and how to, even if you don't have experience, what all to put in a resume that will make you stand out of crowd as a fresher. Also, you can get those tips and all from me. So uh, yeah, again, if you want more information on CDAC and all, you can contact me. And yeah, the most important, guys, study the job description daily and learn the expectation. Yeah. So I will open my LinkedIn account. Everyone is able to see, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So LinkedIn पे account बना लो, guys. Literally, make a very professional account. Go to this jobs section, and in job, you search any company, guys. You not only this semiconductor companies I'm talking about, any of the web development companies. And guys, ये जो लिखा है, you are seeing these things. This Linux device driver developer at AMD, platform debug engineer at Intel, Linux kernel developer at Qualcomm. तो अभी ये जो एलियन टर्म्स मैंने आपको सिखाया, लिनक्स कर्नल, बूट लोडर, ड्राइवर्स, सी यू आर सीइंग द रियल एग्जांपल हियर इन लाइव फ्रंट ऑफ यू. ये सब ओपनिंग्स है उनके पास. सो बट दे डोंट हैव द पीपल, गाइस. ये ओपनिंग ऐसी पड़ी रहती बिकॉज स्किल सेट मिलते, ये स्किल वाले बंदे मिलते नहीं है उनको. जस्ट गो टू एनी वन जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन, आदत डाल लो गाइस इस चीज की. ये सब पढ़ो, क्या बोल रहे हो, वो रोल क्या है, क्या करने वाला है, who will be a great fit. If he joins, what will be his key responsibility? Design and implement Linux device driver firmware supporting. This ये study करो, कितना experience मांग रहे हैं, 8 to 12 year का मांग रहे हैं. But guys, at least study this. See, Linux device drivers, bootloader, ROM code. This is the one thing I was talking about 1 hour back. So ये सब वो मांगते हैं, guys. So study these. Then you can go to Qualcomm. Qualcomm, everyone knows, proficient with C, C++ programming with 3 to 12 year. Just study this, guys. कि यार मेरे को अगर Qualcomm में जाना है, Intel, AMD में जाना है आगे, तो मुझे 3 साल एक्सपीरियंस कहीं लेना पड़ेगा. And that too proficient in C, C++ on ARM processors, caching, interrupts, with these all concepts, Android and all. So again, I will show you one more. Harman. Again, see, guys, ARM32, embedded Linux kernel internals, real-time Linux, real-time operating system, device drivers, QNX, display camera. ये सब नहीं आया चलता है, guys, but at least you should be expert in, at least you should be at least 25% good in these things, because this is practically not possible. इतना सब चीज का expertise लाना. When you see NVIDIA, this Pune opening, they have been posted from last 2 weeks. They're asking for a compiler development engineer. So what are they asking? Only 2 years experience, guys. Come on, you have to just take 2 year experience in C, C++, compiler, linkers. That's it. After 2 years, you apply to NVIDIA and get a call and just crack their interview. So this is very important. That's what my last point meant to you. Study the job description daily and learn the expectation. आज तुम second year में हो, ये हमें तो कुछ बताता नहीं था उस time पे, लेकिन you start studying all this job description from right now, from now on, while you are in first year, second year, third year, final year तक तुम you will be industry ready. तुमको पता चल जाएगा कि expectation क्या है, companies क्या मांग रही है आजकल की. And one more thing, most of these semiconductor companies, they focus on C, C++. So you have a very good picture, guys, कि अगर मेरा C और C++ बहुत अच्छा होना चाहिए अगर मुझे कंपनी में आगे जाना है. Forget about Python, forget about Java. In 3 companies I showed you, they are asking for C, C++ and all. So Western Digital, maybe they might be asking C again only. C. You can see, right? C, C++ data structure algorithm. So have a very, very, very good command on C, C++, guys, if you want to go in this field. Like here, they're asking for Python also, C, C++. Every company, guys, Broadcom, Cisco, see here also they're asking for C. Study these jobs description from now on only, guys. आदत डाल लो रोज की पढ़ना है, क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है, एंड व्हाट यू डू, जो आपके सेमेस्टर के सब्जेक्ट्स चल रहे हैं, लेट देम गो. Like what was that? Network theory was there, DSP was there. You can study those subjects also, but focus more on what the industry and the companies are asking. Now I showed you that C, C++ is extremely important. So you focus more on that. You will be industry ready after 4 years. Start studying these job descriptions. अगर नहीं होता है यार, थोड़ा सा ऐसा आलस आ रहा है, if you are lazy person like me, just join these institutes, guys. CDAC, they train you very, very well. And CDAC का guys बहुत अच्छा reputation है. From the fresher pool of 500 people, you will be given an interview chance if you are from a CDAC, because CDAC का guys बहुत reputation है इंडिया के बाहर. So they definitely ask a CDAC guy. So most of the people I've met who were not placed in any of the companies after final year, they used to generally join CDAC only. And when you compare yourself to a TCS Accenture person after 3 years, you are way 10 times more ahead than him in terms of technology, in terms of team, in terms of company, in terms of anything. So this is one thing. Yes, guys, any questions? Please, you can ask me literally anything, guys.
Sir, people have posted a couple of questions in the chat box.
Yeah, thanks. Let me check. Ankit, are you there? What is the difference between x86 and 64x86? Hello? Okay, I will answer this question. Very, very good question, guys. x86, it has two parts. One is the 32-bit and one is the 64-bit. Like he's asking, like, is there any similarity between x86 and 32-bit? See, Ankit, x86 is an architecture. So I think 2014 से पहले जितने भी phones या जितने भी laptops आते थे, they used to come with 32-bit architecture. 32-bit meaning एक रजिस्टर में एक जो सीपीयू का रजिस्टर होता है, स्टोरेज मेमोरी, उसमें ऑलमोस्ट 32 बिट्स होते हैं जिसको आप रीड और राइट कर सकते हो. एंड 64 बिट सिमिलर है, तो 64 बिट में एक रजिस्टर में 64 बिट्स रहेंगे. So it can accommodate more data, it is more faster, and it can support much more RAM. तो 32-bit का limitation ऐसा है कि max RAM, DDR RAM supported by 32-bit architecture, x86 architecture is 4 GB. आप देखते थे old laptops में 4 GB की RAM आती थी max. But when they shifted to 64-bit architecture, the RAM supported has gone to infinite level, like 64 GB, 128 GB, 512 GB ऐसा RAM आजकल वर्कस्टेशन PCs में आता है. That's the one thing. Second question is, sir, an electronic engineer can also work in software company. Yes, possible. But vice versa is also possible. If you're a computer student, guys, you can also work in semiconductor and electronics industry also. And if you are an electronics engineer, you can also work in a software company also, provided that you are good with any of the software development skills.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, but I had done course in C++, Python.
Okay.
So, sir, that's why I am working software company using C++ language, programming language.
Okay. So your question is?
So that means that I am from electronics engineering department, so I can work in the software company that I had a knowledge about C++ and Python also.
Yeah. That's what happens, right? When these companies come to our college, TCS and all,
Yes.
regardless of your degree, you're from ENTC, electronics, and all. Uh, they still put you into software only, no? After all, if you see these people working in TCS, Accenture, they were electronic graduates, but they are currently working in software only. So it is true, you can work.
Okay, sir. Sir, सर थर्ड ईयर के पहले जो इंटर्नशिप्स रहते हैं सर वो प्रेफर करना चाहिए.
Guys, one very bad thing about internships is, I will tell you the truth, what this internship and all happens. I mean, okay, if you're getting an experience certificate little bit here and there, it is good. And but if always try to do internships from good companies, guys, it helps a lot. Uh, and what they do in internships, they offer you internship for 2 to 3 months and they get a lot of work done from you. वो आपको ट्रेनिंग भी नहीं देते हैं ठीक से, and they don't even get you a chance to learn or do so. My suggestion would be is to always do internship from good company, and yeah, it is okay. Which sector have maximum scope? So depends. As you can see today, guys, every sector has a good scope nowadays. It's only your passion and your curiosity that helps. So I've I've jumped to various different domains. I was into automotive domain with Panasonic, then I was with Wi-Fi domain. Now I am working in 5G domain. So every domain has a very big scope, guys. You just need to find the right opportunity, what is best for you according to your skill sets. And the most important thing is, guys, if you are liking your job, if you're doing really liking your job, the work that you do in the company, you will literally achieve a lot of things. So सैलरी वगैरह सब भूल जाना अभी, डोंट वरी, वो तो कभी बाद में बढ़ने ही वाला है, बट फोकस ऑन द गुड वर्क, गाइस, गुड प्रोफाइल, बहुत आगे निकल जाओगे.
Okay.
Even though the Android already has a file system, why is it suggested to install BusyBox after unlocking bootloader and rooting Android? Android uses a different file system, Ankit. I don't know. उसमें BusyBox वगैरह इंस्टॉल करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है. I don't know where you get this information. But unlocking bootloader is nothing, but it is removing restrictions from your bootloader. So you cannot flash any other language, other ROM onto your device. So that's why they lock it using some bit locking mechanism they use in UEFI bootloader. And also BusyBox is a part of Android only. If you go to the Android source code, I will show you. This is the Android source code, guys. In out directory, I will tell you. These are in the binary form right now. So file system is somewhere in. You can see here user data.img is there, system keymu.img is there, system.img is there. So this BusyBox you're talking about is a binary executable in the system.img only. So no need of installing BusyBox and all. This one is our microprocessor and microcontroller somewhere related to microprogrammable CU. Ankit, can you tell me what is the CU? I don't understand. Hello.
He has written in chat window control unit.
Okay. Okay. Got it. What your question? Yes. See, the basic difference is they are related. They both are related. Microcontrollers and microprocessors both are they both have control units. The only difference is microprocessor have all these IPs outside of the silicon die itself. So the UART controller, the camera controller, and all. But the control units, these are external to a microprocessor. But these microcontrollers, they have everything inside a single die, like RAM, peripherals, UART peripherals, and all. So there is a relation, but it completely depends upon the placement of these control units. In microprocessor, they are placed outside of the SoC die, and in microcontrollers, they are placed inside the SoC die. Okay, last question is, sir, if anyone is interested in gaming development and graphics, then is Linux needed or any other software? Sanket, there are two things. Linux is not built for gaming and all. So you can see most of the games, they run on Windows 10. So you really don't need Linux there. For game development, you can ping me personally. I will tell you. I worked with Ubisoft also, a big gaming company in Pune. So what all things are needed? You generally need C++, C Sharp, good hands-on knowledge with Windows and all. So DLLs and how to develop DLLs and so no, Linux is not needed.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
And for graphics, definitely Linux is needed. So if you use if you're working on AI and machine learning project, you can also ask me. There is one very interesting board from NVIDIA, the NVIDIA Jetson Nano. So it runs Ubuntu on top of on their NVIDIA chip. So that is different. But the problem about these graphics companies, NVIDIA and AMD, is that they don't share their graphics drivers and their source code. So that is one thing.
So,
Yeah.
sir, I got an electronic project in that the Flick Music program code is not available. So I had downloaded a zip file and that unzip also it, but it has not opening the code.
Okay, Ritika, we can discuss this later. Maybe you can have a call with me later and we can find a solution to the same. Let me know.
Sir, number.
Yeah, I will share details. Will Linux replace Windows? No. There has been a very big competition between Linux and Windows, but Windows will not get replaced entirely, because Windows it is good in its own way, and Linux is good in its own way. So the main thing about Linux is that you cannot run Linux on the big powerful servers you see, the workstation servers, your gaming servers, they all use Linux. Your phone uses Linux, but you see Windows only in the gaming field and productivity field. So there were many instances where they tried to replace Windows using Linux, but Windows has a gaming market. Nobody does gaming on Linux and all. So definitely it won't. So like I told you, Windows is good in one area, Linux is good in some other area. So Linux is very good for embedded systems, but Windows is very bad. You know, right? I work at Nokia, and the disaster with Nokia was they incorporated Windows OS in their phones 10 years back, and that was the biggest mistake that the company did. So they both are good in their own terms, and no, I don't think they will be replaced.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, just now you told us a story that you being an average student,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
and when you struggle to place there. Sir,
Yeah.
looking ahead from now, I think lot of the crowd is shifted to CS and IT nowadays, right? So
Right.
how it is possible for an average student? I'm in a first year, so I think that. How is it
Yeah.
possible for the first year student to get placed after being an average and not knowing anything about not knowing anything detailed about all these things and have a passion for that thing. So what do you think? What expertise do we need to get placed in this field?
See, you said you have some passion for some things, like you might have made some plans in your mind, like I want to work in this field, I want to work in this company or this something. So uh, like I told you, you make list of all the companies that work in that particular passionate field. Like I wanted to work in semiconductor, so I was always following these kind of big companies from my childhood days. So and I fought very hard to get into one of these. So uh, if you're passionate about arts, if you're passionate about drawing, if you're passionate about some other things, just find these big companies. They're everywhere, in Pune, in Mumbai, in Bangalore, outside India. So they're everywhere. So if you're average student, you the best thing to stand out of the crowd is to make some projects and showcase them on your resume. I will show you guys my resume in a minute, how to frame it, how to make it best possible you can. So uh, make some projects, I would suggest, and put them on GitHub, anywhere, and just with a click of a link, the interviewer should be able to see what you have done in the past. I think that would help keep you edge over other guys.
Okay, sir.
And see, from what I've learned in last 3 to 4 years, guys, the university, the degree, and all these guys, these things don't matter. I mean, an IITN gets placed in Nokia, and NITN also gets placed in Nokia, and I'm from YCC. I also got placed in Nokia only. The only thing that matters is, guys, how good you are in your field, how passionate you are in your field. That will really help you, regardless of the degree and all. Now you tell me, if you're having an interview with Samsung Bangalore, and there is one South Indian guy, he doesn't know anything about YCC, he doesn't know anything about Ramdev Baba. You have been shortlisted for that interview. It's because of your past experiences, something that you have worked in your past companies.
Hmm.
So we can have this in a, maybe you can ping me, you can contact me later. We can yeah, any questions you have, you can. So what is the main difference between Linux and Windows? So what is the basic difference between Linux and Windows? Like I told, there are lots of differences, the way they work. See, the most important difference is Windows 10 has been written in C++ and C Sharp, and Linux has been written completely in C, pure C. So everyone asks you what is the main difference. You can tell that, yeah, UI to same hai, sab kuch same hai. Like I can open anything. I can do the same in Windows. You can tell any of the person who asks you this question that, yeah, Linux has been written in C, but Windows has been written in C++, C Sharp. Because Tamil Nadu government replaced all their Windows system with Boss Linux. Why not engineering colleges? Aniket, I don't know. Maybe you will have to ask the faculty why not replace all these Windows XP and Windows 7 computers with very powerful security Ubuntu or Red Hat systems. I don't think I will be able to answer this.
So I want to add here.
Yeah.
Just 2-3 back, we have shifted our whole system on Ubuntu, and we face a lot of challenges. Actually, students
Okay.
and faculty, means everyone is not easily adapting the thing. Actually,
Ha, ha,
ethically, we
right.
should go for all these open source wares, and we
Ha, ha.
have started, but gradually again we shifted to Windows. So actually, that is the experience we found that. We are not comfortable. Even students were not comfortable, and everybody was complaining. Nobody tried to adjust with the thing.
Okay.
So this is the collaborative initiative. If everybody will start, then that will be fine. Otherwise, from top end, we need compulsion from government side.
Okay. One more thing, the challenge I know, Prachi ma'am, is that not all software run on Ubuntu correctly. Right? We use
Yes.
MATLAB. We used to use MATLAB. We used to use that, what it was, Cadence, some Cadence, LT Spice, Cadence. We used to do labs in that. So these are the software which run very well on Windows and don't have support on Linux. So that is one reason you cannot replace Linux with the all the desktop in Linux with in engineering with Linux, basically, because all the software on which you do your lab courses, no, they are not installable on Linux sometimes. Okay, guys, I will just show you my sample resume. Okay, able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
See, your resume, first thing आपका जो resume रहता है वो interviewer के हाथ में जाता है. What all things they look, I will tell you guys. It should be absolutely professional and absolutely professional and absolutely formal. No fancy photos in the left, no nothing, no fancy text. Use simple text, black and white. Just highlight wherever possible. Like here, I have highlighted my mail ID. Just simple black and white is okay. Just highlighted all these words, these keywords. Okay, एक छोटे से स्पेस में आपका पता चल जाना चाहिए कि आपका क्वालिफिकेशन क्या है, आप कहाँ रहते हो, आप कहाँ से हो. This thing doesn't matter. This contact number, date of birth, कहाँ से है वो भी मैटर नहीं करता है. You will just see that he is a BE in electronics engineering from Nagpur with a CGPA of 6.89, and then he has done CDAC at Pune course with 62 percentile. He will straight away come down. He will see the professional experience field, कब से काम कर रहा है, कौन से कंपनी में काम कर रहा है, what is his designation and what project has he done. सीधा वो इस पे आएंगे. And HR has just 1 minute to reject or accept your resume. They just do a control F. अगर requirement C का है, she will just type C if he has worked on C or C++, let's say. C. 1 मिनट के अंदर उसको 2 सेकंड में मिल जाएगा कि yeah, he has worked on C++ and what he has done on C++. वो पढ़ती है. Then she shortlists you. And then after final this, she will call you, she will ask you that have you worked on C, have you worked on Linux, have you worked on this, and finally it goes to the technical manager. Then he reads this. They hardly have any time, guys. They are very, very busy. These manager people, they are continuously busy in meetings and also. Another approach is, another very important thing is highlight all the technical words in your resume, make them bold, bootloader, infotainment, these kind of alien words. Highlight them. बहुत अच्छा लगता है उनको. Qualcomm Snapdragon, these are alien words. Highlight them. क्या किया? And only show your output in your resume. Don't write that I know C, C++, I know Python, I know Shell. No. वो तो हर कोई लिखता है. This is written by lakhs of other students also. If you know C, show me some project. I've made this app. C++, using C++. If I and I put also my link here. Wait, I will show you my GitHub repository. So this is something which I made from scratch, guys. I mean, I got a lot of appreciation in interviews also. I made it from scratch. This is an instrument cluster which I made on Raspberry Pi using C++, using Qt-QML framework. So I developed this app. It's a speedometer. Basically, you can plug it into any upcoming two-wheeler vehicles like KTM, some Activa or something. You can literally, and this is the software which I used. It was done back in 2000, I think. What was it? 2017. You can read it if you find some time. So guys, this was not made for any company. I made it for myself. I wanted to learn C++. I wanted to learn this. I wanted to make this, and I made it. I put it on my GitHub, and इसमें link डाल दिया. So what the interviewer will do, he will directly go to this link. चलो भाई देखते हैं क्या किया इसने. तो he will then go. So make this habit. Projects बनाओ, उनको GitHub पे डाल दो, and put these GitHub links in your resume. Literally, I'm telling you guys, you will have an edge. अगर machine learning AI में कुछ कर रहे हो, कुछ projects कर रहे हो, so you may build those projects and put it in your resume itself. Edge मिलेगा आपको. You will definitely get an interview call.
Okay.
This is one trick. Then previous company में क्या किया, उसमें भी I highlighted all these things, and it should look very very professional, guys. Tools, software, language, C, Linux, OpenWRT, Bash. They don't want to know anything, your hobbies and all. Just cut that crap out of your resume, guys. Technical skills, क्या क्या पता है इसे, Wi-Fi access point, GSM, GPS modules, strong hands-on experience in device driver, U-boot kernel, Git OS basics, Git आता है, Yocto, device tree, BSP, C++ आता है, and rest extracurricular and all you can put somewhere down. वो तो generally पढ़ते नहीं है. So if you want this resume format or something, if you want how to build this kind of resume, I can share you my own copy for you so that you can also build. Okay, one more question. Where to learn management skills while CC don't have any societies? Sally, I have no idea. I guess Prachi ma'am would be able to answer this.
Saili, this webinar is organized by YCC IEEE student branch. It is solely organized by the students. See, they are learning management skills through this type of event organization. So this is one of the renowned professional organization, IEEE. Similarly, some ACM is there in computer department. So you can join all this professional organization. And hereby you have to organize event, and you have to learn all these things through event organization. See, in this event, I have just contacted with Pratik. Other things, everything is done by the student side. I'm not involved in that. So see, they learn all these things through this organization. So you can join any professional society. So IEEE is one of the society. So you just contact with Ronak and I think Yogeshwar, Daneshwari is there, Trishita is there, and you can join the society if you want to learn all these things. Because it is also connected with international level also. You can also go outside YCC if you want to learn many things. Is it, Saili, fine?
Yes, ma'am, fine.
Sir,
Yeah.
you can please share your LinkedIn profile in the chat box.
Yeah, sure.
so
Yeah,
that students
that is the
can-
next slide actually.
Okay.
Okay, guys, you can reach out to me. You can take a picture from your camera if you want to reach out to me. I have attached some links. Straight away, you can WhatsApp me or call me directly. I have a GitHub account. I have a LinkedIn account. So you can connect me on. I'm very much active on LinkedIn, guys. So you can anytime ping me. So anytime I will be able to help you in all of these things. So if you want any help, you can just reach out to me in this thing.
Pratik, there was one question from the student side that if they are in first year, then how to start? Actually, they don't know which project they should start. Means where they connect actually, basically. So will you just give some guidelines regarding that? If they are in first year and second year, then which kind of project they should select and from where?
Prachi ma'am, I think it all depends. If they have chosen that they want to make career in machine learning, data science, or embedded systems or web development, they first need to figure out like कि उनका passion कहाँ है, what do they like. First they have to figure that out. तुमको पूछो यार, तुमको photography में interest है या तुमको म्यूजिक बनाने में इंटरेस्ट है, या you have interest in web development, or you have interest in machine learning. First figure that out, and then study, do a little bit of market study, like what skills I need to acquire, what are the current companies asking. Like I told you, now go through this job description, guys.
Sir,
Yeah.
so after so I had one project, electronic project. After that project was completed, the software project.
Not able to hear you.
Sir,
Yeah.
so now I had one project. After the project completion, We can do the software projects like using C++ programming language, Python,
Yeah.
Java.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
At least in
Okay,
embedded Linux, semiconductor and all, I will be able to help you a lot, guys. On the machine learning side also, a little bit of help I can give it to you. But one more, guys. Apart from social media, Instagram, Facebook, and all is fine. But definitely make account on LinkedIn if you don't have one. And almost in my connection, I have almost 2,609 connection, guys. I have this habit of sending requests to all the HRs in all the companies. तो आप देखोगे मेरे LinkedIn account में तो out of 2,609 connections, almost 2,600 might be the HR of the companies. HRs from countries like USA, Europe, working in Mercedes, working in Nokia, working in Samsung, all over the world. So make a very, very professional connection with all of these HRs and all. So stay connected with them a lot. Follow all the big companies. What are they looking for? So apart from the normal Insta and Facebook, spend time on these things also.
Okay, I think we have had questions from the audience now. So can you
Just
proceed with the
one
vote of
thing I
thanks?
want to add, Devang. Yes, Devang.
Okay, ma'am.
Just last
Yes,
statement.
ma'am.
There are communities like Kaggle, Geeks for Geeks, Hacker Earth, Hacker Rank. They provide some challenges, and where you can you can complete challenge, and you can also showcase it as your project. Am I right, Miss? You suggest from student side. I want Devang, Pratik.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Kaggle is very good. Also, it has, I think the community is very good for doing
Hmm.
projects.
So actually, second year, first year students having query that from where they can start. So if they join these communities and they can start their project, then I think that will the best platform.
Yeah. One more very important tip I wanted to give you guys. Just listen to me very carefully. What a typical Indian education system does is they teach you first. They teach you C, C++. That refer this book, write this program, and all. Uh, uh, then study this Java and all. That is the wrong method, actually, guys. See, first you figure out what project you have to build. Okay. If I want to build a game, let's say, for example, I want to build a game. So a game for Android or a game for a desktop computer. If you want to build it for Linux, Windows operating system, then you what are the prerequisites? You need to know C++ and C#. But if you want to build a game for Android, then you need to know Java. So make a feasibility study कि मुझे क्या क्या skills लगने वाला है if I want to develop my own game. Then study those क्या क्या लगने वाला है. What will be the user interface when the game is loaded? What will be the user interface? क्या options रहेंगे? Game का logic. If it's a normal tic-tac-toe or a first-person shooter game, make some कि कैसा रहेगा? Make some picture in your mind, and then you ask yourself, yeah, मेरे को C++ और C# सीखना है अगर गेम बनाने के लिए. Then don't just grab a book and start learning C#, C++ from scratch, because it is a never ending process. तुम 7 साल 8 साल एक ही बुक रेफर करके C++ सीख रहे होंगे, still you won't get any expert. Then game engines are there. Study those game engines. Like for Android, there is Unity engine. You can download it. It's free of cost for 2D 3D games. Just get that. Then usme when you download it, there are some APIs. You read the documentation. Don't start studying the programming languages right away. पढ़ाई करो, documentation देखो कि उसमें क्या है. Then they give you a set of APIs, and those APIs might be in Java. Like just study those. Like अभी फिर बाद में logic बात करना. मतलब पहले देख लो कौन सी APIs मिलती है. If I want to if I want my character, the game character to move forward, there might be an API. वो कैसे implement किया है, see that code, and वो कैसे implement किया, फिर मुझे change करना है, वो change करना है. It is all customizable nowadays. So that's after that you learn all the this oops pattern, the low level arrays and functions. Because see guys, typical institute training will give you how to write code in C using arrays, how to make a linked list. But guys, industry में ऐसा काम नहीं होता है. It is very 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 difficult. It is very very different from what we learn in the colleges. It is completely different, I would say. So there is hardly any connection. So first figure out, don't just start learning programming and all straight away. Go through documentation, make a prerequisite, and finally if let's say if you are developing an Android app, you want to make your own app like Swiggy. Before directly going to the Swiggy app, just try to make a hello world and try to understand what is the code behind the hello world Android app, how to develop an APK and all. After that, you can start integrating different things. The Swiggy app, it uses your 4G connection for placing orders. It uses your GPS connection for getting the location services. So they have all the Google. They people have all the APIs built in. Similarly, for machine learning, AI, you have TensorFlow, you have Keras. They have sample codes in Python, C++. So study those APIs and then straight away call them in your code directly using C++ or C# or in Python. So that's how that should be the way of developing anything.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think now Mahek will proceed with the vote of thanks if you guys are okay.
Yeah.
Is it okay with you, sir? Okay.
So I will stop my
she would like
presentation.
yes, sir. She would like to present the screen.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Mehak Narlawal, and I would like to thank our guest, Mr. Pratik Farkase sir, for visiting and enlightening us with their knowledge. Today's webinar was titillating and very informative. It gave deep insights into the topic and also taught us new things. I'm sure the precious knowledge that sir gave us will definitely help us in our studies and future. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mac,
I
I'm
would
not
also
sir. I'm not a sir. I'm just a kid like you. I'm just 3 to 4 years senior to you. So don't call me sir. I'm just a kid.
sir, that's your greatness, humbleness.
I told this Devang and Ronak also not to call me sir and all because it's very it feels very awkward because I'm not a sir actually.
Okay.
Again, thanks a lot, guys. Anytime if you want some help in any of the things, technical, non-technical, how to cope up with the rejections in interviews, how to frame the perfect resume, anything, guys. You can contact me on the contact number anytime if you want any help. So once again, I would really like to thank IEEE team and Prachi ma'am for taking this initiative, finally giving me a session to talk about all these things. Thanks a lot, and see you guys then.
Thank you, sir. The
Okay,
pleasure
Thanks,
is mine.
Pratik.
Thank you, sir.
And we are waiting for your live session, hands-on training.
Yeah. Guys, actually, live session was planned so that I can show you all this code, kernel, and all these things booting in front of your eyes on a real hardware, but that was not possible. So whenever this COVID thing and all settles down, then I might visit the college and maybe meet with all of you guys if I get chance.
So we would love to do that.
And currently I'm in Nagpur only, so you need any help in your project and anything, you can reach out to me.
Surely, sir. Surely. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, guys. Then I'll disconnect then.